Welcome to the Eye Opener. I'm your host, Michael Lewis. Biden and Harris have broken the routine of COVID-19 conference calls. You'll never guess who's heading up the conference calls now. A Stanford medical professor was stunned by Florida Governor Desantis' knowledge of the coronavirus. He said Desantis could go up against any epidemiologist. For the first time in more than a decade, the Supreme Court weighed in on a major case involving the Second Amendment. Who are the justices that have been impeding the Second Amendment rights? Maricopa's judge was replaced by a Democrat appointee, Daniel Martin. But speculation suggests Martin might also have conflict of interest. Okay, my friends, let's take a closer look together. Every Tuesday at 11 a.m., all 50 governors dial into the same conference call to coordinate federal and state responses to the COVID-19 pandemic. Before Joe Biden took office, former Vice President Mike Pence, as head of the COVID task force, led this discussion every week. President Trump dropped by from time to time. However, this routine has been somewhat broken since January. Although state governors carried over the call into the new administration, Biden has never attended the Tuesday conferences. Kamala Harris has been on a call for about 5 minutes. New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu said it's been a real frustration for all 50 governors. During the 2020 presidential race, Biden attacked President Trump over his handling of the pandemic and promised to do better. After the election on November 19th, Biden and Harris appeared on the screen and vowed to work with all governors to combat COVID-19.
And I promise you that we'll work together. What really pleased me was that governors made clear that beating COVID-19 is going to require all of us working together as one country. Kamala and I agree. We were deeply impressed with how much consensus there was, how to move forward among the governors.
Biden and Harris should know actions speak louder than words. So who's leading the COVID-19 conference call today? Don't be shocked. It's New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, the least appropriate candidate. Cuomo forced nursing homes to accept coronavirus patients, which could have caused as many as 15,000 unnecessary deaths in New York. It's already a shocking disgrace that he hasn't resigned. Who's the most qualified governor to lead this effort? It has to be Florida's Ron DeSantis. According to Stanford medical professor Jayanta Bhattacharya, most epidemiologists don't even know the literature on coronavirus as well as DeSantis does. Bhattacharya didn't know anything about the Florida governor until last September. Then he was stunned by DeSantis' knowledge of the coronavirus.
I've never met a politician like him. He's extraordinary. He called me out of the blue sometime in mid-September, like on a Sunday morning. I'm not sure exactly I got my number, but he called me up and said, "Would you like to speak to Governor DeSantis?" I said, "Okay." And he'd read we had a 2-hour conversation about COVID policy. This is September of last year, right? And he had read all the papers that I referenced, and not my work, but like lots and lots of other papers. He knew all of the details. It was a remarkable conversation.
Bhattacharya says it takes a combination of intellectual bravery and willingness for a politician to absorb the information in all these papers. DeSantis could go up against any epidemiologist, Bhattacharya said. Florida was the first state to open up its economy. On September 25th, DeSantis lifted all restrictions on restaurants and businesses. Despite Florida having one of the most senior populations per capita in the country, it maintains stable coronavirus infection and death rates with its open economy approach. As of April 26, Florida's infection and death rates are in the medium range compared to all other states. Democrats and mainstream media have been attacking DeSantis since Florida reopened. They said that Florida governor got lucky without serious issues, but Bhattacharya doesn't agree with this view. He says Florida's success has nothing to do with luck. DeSantis was exceptionally well informed on the consequences of lifting the restrictions, and he chose to adopt a policy that would be right over a broad range of scientific parameters. In contrast, the pro-lockdown politicians are only right for a narrow set of scientific parameters, and those scientific parameters turned out to not be right. The professor said, in a sense, DeSantis is not lucky, but smart. He got the policy right by delving deep into the science. But even by the narrow range of scientific parameters, Florida's COVID-19 death rate is 40% lower than what New York has as of this past Monday. If you want to extend that metric and measure people's physical, mental, and economic well-being in the two states, Florida definitely excels. The Sunshine State banned the proposed use of vaccine passports back on April 2nd, and it does not impose mandatory requirements for Florida residents to get vaccinated. However, in deep blue California, only vaccinated students may be able to return to campuses. The University of California and California State University have proposed policies to require proof of vaccination or medical exemption of students planning to access campuses in the fall. The two public university systems consist of 33 campuses. Details are not fully released, but besides medical exemption, individuals may be able to seek an exemption based on religious grounds. Across the Atlantic, the European Commission announced on Sunday that fully vaccinated Americans will likely be allowed to travel to the European Union this summer. The final decision will depend on the global status of the pandemic. Once this is implemented, all 27 states in the EU will accept unconditionally all those who are vaccinated by Moderna, Pfizer, and Johnson & Johnson vaccines. Thinking about traveling to Europe soon? You may have to provide a vaccine passport. The European Commission has proposed a vaccine passport called Digital Green Certificate. It's currently under EU parliamentary debate and is expected to launch in June. On Tuesday, Judge Daniel Martin replaced Judge Christopher Corey to oversee Democrats' legal challenge to the Maricopa County's election audit. The court received a filing at 4 p.m. Sunday mentioning attorney Chris Viskovic joining the case. Following the filing, Corey removed himself from the case within 24 hours before the hearing, citing a conflict of interest. Attorney Viskovic had previously worked in Corey's office as an extern within the past 5 years. According to the state's Code of Judicial Conduct, Corey must remove himself from any further involvement in the case. But things might not be as simple as they look on the surface. Martin is a Democrat appointee, while Corey was appointed by Republicans. And not to be surprising, Corey isn't popular among Democrats. Last year, Democrats in Maricopa County campaigned to oust him from another 4-year term on the bench. After Democrats filed a lawsuit against the forensic audit last week, Corey ruled on the Democratic Party must put up a $1 million bond to proceed. It turned out the Arizona Democrats didn't have the money on hand to halt the process. The recusal of Corey hours ahead of the Monday hearing is suspicious. Nonetheless, the Democrats have a crew of more than 100 lawyers, according to former President Trump, searching every possible loophole in the audit process to take away the integrity of Senate Republicans' efforts. They may have just found a way to legitimately remove Corey from the case. However, speculation found the new judge, Martin, might also have a conflict of interest. Martin used to work for the law firm now called Perkins & Coie. Perkins & Coie has represented Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party for years. Although Martin's connection with the firm was a long time ago, this tie is still noteworthy for the voters. Now, it's fair to ask, what are the Democrats trying to hide? The results of the audit won't change the outcome of the 2020 election, but it's the necessary path to find answers that many people had. Let's listen to what Arizona Senate President Karen Fann said about the Maricopa audit.
When this first started from the very beginning, I had contacted the Board of Supervisors, said, you guys, we're going to have problems with this election. I can tell you already by the emails, we need to do a full-on audit here to answer this. When you've got half of the people that do not trust the electoral system anymore, rightly or wrongly so, if they have questions, who is responsible for answering these questions? How do we put election integrity back into our system? And that's only what this has been about. This has been the sole thing, is to get answers so that if we have any problems, we can fix them and we make sure that the next election is safer, cleaner, and runs smoothly.
But for such a compelling cause, Governor Doug Ducey made himself famous by continuing to turn a blind eye. Former President Trump on Monday called him out again, saying, the second worst Republican governor in America, Doug Ducey, is refusing to provide security for the American Patriots, who are hand-counting the ballots in Maricopa. In the long battle fighting for Maricopa County's forensic audit, Ducey has been a real obstruction. He insists on certifying the election without a stringent audit that Senate Republicans had been asking for on behalf of the people. Why would a Republican governor not do everything to restore the trust of his voters? Republicans in Arizona had enough opposition to deal with from Democrats, and they have to fight with their own Republican governor to secure the hand count audit? Trump called Ducey the second worst governor. So who's the worst Republican governor? We aren't sure about Trump's pick, but the worst is probably one of the following three: Governor Larry Hogan of Maryland, Governor Mike DeWine of Ohio, and Governor Charlie Baker of Massachusetts. The three earned their bad rep for the following reasons. They are avid pro-lockdown Republicans. Hogan has acted aggressively to contain the virus. He was also a critic of the White House when Trump was in office. In November, Hogan implemented a snitch hotline in Maryland where people could tattle on their neighbors for having too many people over for Thanksgiving dinner. DeWine was the first governor in the nation to call for a statewide closure of public schools as early as March 12, 2020, even though Ohio had yet to experience a major outbreak of the virus. Now, Baker is indistinguishable from his Democratic peers. Baker's governing has caused immense tangible harm, and he has been sued from his own constituents who want their liberties back. Last summer, Massachusetts' unemployment rate approached Great Depression levels, the highest in the country, an astonishing 16.1%. Depression, suicide, alcoholism, and domestic violence have all increased. Do you agree with our findings? And do you agree that America needs more governors like Ron DeSantis of Florida? Since the November presidential election, the Republican Party has struggled to regain ground and a majority in the House. Republicans lost key elections and later fought hard to put the brakes on the Biden admin's leftist agenda. While it would appear that the left has the upper hand, the tide is turning, according to the NRCC April Battleground Congressional District Survey. The survey is an internal poll that tells the GOP how the party is doing. It was conducted between April 18th and the 21st and included an oversampling of the 16 ticket split districts. These 16 districts are important because voters choose one party candidate as president, but the other party's candidate for other positions on the ticket. 1,000 voters were surveyed. What the polls appear to indicate is that Republicans are in a good position to retake the House in the midterm elections. On the whole, voters support Republicans by 5 more percent. 46% supported the Republicans, while only 41% supported the Democrats, and 42% of independents put their trust in Republicans over 31% in Democrats. And why wouldn't they vote this way? With all the executive orders Biden has signed pushing the left agenda with massive spending on their wish list, opening the border to COVID-infected illegal immigrants, pushing greater gun control, rejoining the climate change accord, re-entering the nuclear deal with Iran, and canceling the Keystone Pipeline deal with Canada have all put Americans last. The time is ripe for Americans to speak with their vote. And when asked about Democrats' signature piece of legislation, the COVID bill is coming up short. 57% of voters do not believe the President Biden's COVID-19 stimulus is helping them and their family. What the poll also brought to light is House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's popularity, or rather lack thereof. Pelosi remains the most unpopular politician in the country and has managed to become even more unpopular. In February, Pelosi had a 41% favorable to 52% unfavorable rating. Since then, her image has dropped 7 points to 38% favorable to 56% unfavorable. So things are looking cautiously optimistic for the GOP in the upcoming midterms. Now, before we continue, if you like our program, please hit the like button and subscribe. It'll help more people see our videos. And if you want to support the Eye Opener, click the Teespring link in the description to purchase a mug that matters. Your support is greatly appreciated. Okay, my friends, let's get back to the show. The Supreme Court of the United States on Monday accepted a major National Rifle Association-backed lawsuit. The lawsuit challenges a New York law that restricts individuals from carrying concealed handguns in public. The case will force the court to address whether or not New Yorkers can be forced to prove they need to carry a firearm for self-defense. The lawsuit is significant. It's been more than 10 years since the Supreme Court weighed in on a major case involving the Second Amendment. Second Amendment Foundation founder Alan Gottlieb said, "The entire gun rights community has waited for many years for this news. A right that exists only in one's home is not a right at all. We do not limit the right of free speech or freedom of the press or the practice of one's religion or the right of legal counsel just to someone's residence." The National Rifle Association applauded the court's decision. The group wrote, if the Supreme Court rules favorably, it'll affect the laws in many states that restrict carrying a firearm outside of the home. Justice Clarence Thomas, considered possibly the most conservative justice, was particularly discontent with the court's past take on gun rights. He wrote in a dissent last year, "Law-abiding citizens have been barred from exercising the fundamental right to bear arms because they cannot show that they have a justifiable need or a good reason for doing so. One would think that such an erroneous burden on a fundamental right would warrant this court's review." Besides Justice Thomas, Justice Brett Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett are two other pro-Second Amendment rights justices, while speculation suggests Justice Anthony Kennedy and Chief Justice John Roberts were the culprits that gun rights supporters didn't have the votes to tackle this issue in the past. Around the country, red states are waiting for the Supreme Court's move to defend the Second Amendment rights. In Idaho, the Republican-controlled House on Monday approved a Senate-passed legislation to prevent the state from enforcing Biden's executive orders related to gun control. The new bill will impose a $1,000 penalty on state officials if they enforce any executive order, agency order, treaty, law, rule, or regulation of the federal government that violates Idaho's Constitution, which explicitly guarantees the right to bear arms. If Republican Governor Brad Little signs the bill into law, the measure will be retroactive to January 20th, Biden's first day in office. Also on the same day, the Idaho Senate passed H.R. 377. Bill H.R. 377 would ban the teaching of critical race theory in schools. The measure was already passed in the House and is now awaiting for Little's signature. Idaho may become the first state in the nation banning the essentially racist and incorrect critical race theory. Sponsors of the bill, Senator Carl Crabtree, said the intention was not to prohibit discussion about racial justice. The bill doesn't indicate whether Idaho has a rampant problem, rather it is a preventative measure. But some conservative groups still aren't satisfied with the new effort. The Idaho Freedom Foundation said the bill doesn't go far enough as it doesn't protect faculty members, professors, or teachers from undergoing the so-called anti-racism training. The bill also doesn't include consequences for educational institutes that implement critical race theory. The Idaho Freedom Foundation added critical race theory training violates both freedom of conscience and freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is violated by being compelled to admit to complicity in racism and sexism that are unlikely to be true. And that's it for today, my friends. Check out the playlist right here for more eye-opening content. You can join me on the Eye Opener Telegram chat room and follow me on YouMaker, Gab, and Parler. All the links are in the description below. Don't forget, please sign up to our email list so that we can stay in contact with each other. I want to thank you all, and I'll see you next time.